Welcome to the Parkland Report. My name is Seamus Riley. Joining me today, Kevin Knott, Director of our Institutional Accountability Research Group here on Parkland's campus. Welcome to the Parkland Report.
Thank you, Dr. Riley.
Kevin, tell me a little bit about your office and the specific things that you do and areas that report to you.
Well, the Office of Institutional Accountability, we cover all of the mandated reporting by the federal government, ICCB, which is in other words the state government, and the Higher Learning Commission, plus any external parties wanting information from us. We also do a lot of the institutional research, is where people will contact us and want information with us regarding to help them make decisions, to help them restructure programs for assessment purposes, anything like that. That's the kind of the institutional accountability part of it. The institutional research part is what I guess kind of alluded to. That's where people will use us kind of as a decision support model, where they'll contact us for basically data, evidence-based decision making. They will use that data to help them drive decisions, shape programs and things like that. Also, academic scheduling, they report to us, and that is basically where the classroom, where the courses, where they're located, what time they meet, and all that's throughout the college. And then also we use that information to help drive the timetable. And then on top of that, we do curriculum management, and on and on and on.
Also, as part of your office, you have the class climate, which is the evaluation for the faculty.
Yes, that's the course evaluation system that every student fills out an evaluation of the course and the instructor at the closing of every course they take. Usually we have about 55,000 paper ones that we run through a scanner, and then we have several thousand of the online we do as well.
So basically everybody who's here, whether they move or don't move or come in or come out or where they're located, your office is basically in charge of capturing that information.
Yes, pretty much. We're pretty much behind the scenes on a lot of stuff we do here at Parkland College.
So community colleges count the people who are here, and because that's tied to the funding mechanism for how the state community college works. Talk a little bit about that. Illinois Community College Board, ICCB, some of the reports that we give them to generate that funding.
Well, we do a myriad of reports. The last I counted, we did over 55 state reports alone. From ICCB perspective, this can be everything from the annual head counts of what we do. We do an underrepresented group reports talking about the underrepresented groups here on the campus. We do course enrollments. We do financial, non-financial, everything you can think of the state wants to know. And on top of that, we do the federal reporting, which is called IPEDS. That comes from the Department of Education. And we do 9 to 10 of those mandated reports. And every institution on the federal side, every institution in the country who receives federal aid or financial aid monies from the federal government has to complete these same reports that we do. Everybody from a School of Cosmetology to a Yale, I mean anybody that receives any kind of financial aid. And then on top of that, we have the accountability part of reporting to the Higher Learning Commission, which is our overall accreditation body. And then under that, we also give data to more program-style accreditation, like dental hygiene and nursing. They also do accreditation. So we do a lot of reporting across all realms.
So specifically for the Illinois Community College Board, ICCB, our state apportionment, can you talk a little bit about the specific report you do for that piece of it, and how does that account for the funding that we get from this thing?
Well, performance-based funding is brand new to Illinois, and basically the apportionment part of it is when the apportionment part is when the students, they count the students who are in here, who are enrolled in a course at midterm. So as long as they're enrolled at the course, we'll get funding for that. And the funding is based upon what type of course it is. whether it be a baccalaureate transfer degree or it be a occupational type degree. And every one of those there's a different funding code, and every type of those is connected to a certain dollar amount. And from that, we submit these to the state, and then we get money back 2 years later based upon how many students are here at midterm.
So that's one of the funding mechanisms for how this, that actually is how the state, for the most part, funds community colleges.
Right.
So you talked about performance funding, based funding, which you said is a brand new concept, a little bit different to that, and really sort of in exploratory stages at this point. Just mention a little bit about what performance-based funding is.
Well, performance-based funding is based upon certain measures how community colleges do. And those measures are, like I said, they're brand new, and right now they have not been distributed yet. We don't really know what those measures are yet. They haven't been distributed yet to the community colleges, but those measures are based upon the data that we already submit. So that's the reason it's kind of unknown what it is right now. And it's such a small amount right now that it's supposed to grow in time, because the whole accountability realm of accountability is upon us, and the state wants to know what we're doing with our money. So the way I just mentioned before about the number of students here at midterm, that will probably go away, and that will be more replaced by performance-based funding. So basically, the better your community college does, in theory, the more money you're supposed to receive.
So some of the things that we do that you measure for the state in some of the reports, obviously we measure how many people are here at midterm, but we also mention how many certificates we award, how many degrees we award.
Completion rates, right?
Right. Potentially they could be things that people might be more interested in.
They might look at student progress, how many hours in a certain time, how many hours students complete over a certain time period. They might look at retention rates, which is basically how many students actually finish a course. You might look at persistence rates, how many students are here in time frame 1 versus time frame 2, like how many students are here in fall of fiscal year 11, and then how many of the same students are here fiscal year 12, so things like that.
So these are things that we sort of, like your office gets to measure and sort of keep track of as we march our students through. And of course on the tail end, when the students have gone through and graduated or completed a certificate, we want to make sure we also do some follow-up surveys for especially on the career side.
Right.
And that's again another accountability measure.
Yeah, we do the graduate follow-up survey every year, and on top of that, that's mandated by the state. And on top of that, we also do a transfer survey. And to fall back on the graduate survey, that's anybody that's completed a credential at Parkland College. So it can be an AAS degree, those are the ones that transfer. It can be AAS degree, those are a terminal associate's degree, and can also be a certificate. And a lot of times on the certificates, people get confused that if a person completes a 15-hour or a 30-hour certificate, people know they actually finished a credential, but a lot of times people don't realize if they take a certified nursing assistant course, for instance, which is a 6-hour course, by definition, those people have graduated or received a certificate, and those folks will also receive the graduate survey, or the graduate survey. And then the transfer survey, those are sent to anybody that's gone through Parkland that has received an AA or an AS degree that was in a transfer program that is transferred to a 4-year institution.
So it's a way for us to sort of keep track of what's happening with our students as they go through. You mentioned a little bit also some of the internal research that students do, which I guess will be the research part, or rather that our departments do. And those would be sort of individually sort of constructed measures that individual departments, they want to see how a particular course is doing in terms of success rate or even a particular degree program. Talk about maybe some recent sort of examples of pieces that you've done for folks.
Recently, like for instance, there was a policy to where English 101 was implemented in certain transfer baccalaureate type courses. And before, English 101 was not a prerequisite, but now it is. And like we looked at recently the effect of how many students completed it by the distribution of grades before versus when English 101 was in place, and we looked at the difference, what that occurred. I mean, looked at the differences before and after English 101. Another one might be cutoff scores. We did on ESL, which English is a second language. They have to take a test to where they place in certain English courses. English is a second language courses, and we were looking at different cutoff scores to where that lies, whether or not they take this course versus that course. We've done a lot with developmental education, retention rates of developmental education, the effect of developmental education, the progress of developmental students as they progress through the developmental tract into college level courses. We look at a lot of head counts of how many students are here, look at a lot of FTE, basically enrollment counts. I mean, a lot of this is used for, well, a lot of times we are contacted by the person who wants the information and we give it to them, but a lot of times we don't know exactly how they apply it. So it's all over the place on how we do it.
So in gathering this information, and you talked earlier about sort of the specific state measures, but then these are also transferred into a national rating scale or collection sort of system, and that's called IPEDS.
Right.
What is IPEDS?
IPEDS is basically a reservoir or a collection of data that every institution in the country, as I mentioned before, every institution has to fill out this information that receives financial aid dollars. And basically, it's a repository for information for the consumer, actually. We send it to the state of Illinois, and then the state of Illinois, ICCB, sends it to IPEDS on our behalf. And you can go to the IPEDS website, and I don't know what it is, but go to Google and type in IPEDS, and you can basically look up anything about any institution in the country. You can put together peer groups, and you can compare any kind of hundreds and hundreds of statistics. Now, whether or not parents and students use this, I don't know, but from an institutional point of view, we can use it for ourselves to compare ourselves with other institutions across the country on how we're doing with completion, number of degrees, or number of credentials awarded, enrollments, financial information, anything along those lines. We can use, an institution can use it to compare themselves to others.
Hey, Allison and Dylan, what if I told you you could get a head start on college before you graduated high school and for little to no cost?
Well, I'd ask you what the catch is.
Yeah, how can I take college courses if I haven't even finished high school yet?
That's easy. You simply enroll in dual credit courses at Parkland College.
But won't that be expensive?
Yeah, will all the credits transfer?
Well, most four-year universities accept these credits, and you're actually saving money. Many times the high school will even cover the cost of the course.
I'm sorry, did I overhear you guys correctly? Did you just say that you could take college courses without paying college tuition?
Yeah, all we pay for is the course and the textbook, and we can earn college credit towards getting our degree.
You guys are catching on. The credit works toward a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, and even toward career certificate programs.
I like the sound of this.
I don't know, this all sounds great, but I already have a busy schedule and I won't have time to drive to classes.
You won't have to. Parkland offers a number of dual credit courses online, in addition to the on-campus courses. Some of the courses are even taught in your high school.
You mean to say that one of the high school classes I'm taking right now could work as a dual credit course as well?
Yes, you should talk to the school counselor to see which classes are offered as dual credit in our school. Then all you need to do is apply to Parkland, and once you're accepted, fill out the application to the dual credit program. You'll need the signature of your parents and advisor for this.
That sounds easy enough, but are there any requirements to being eligible for dual credit?
Yes, you must be a junior or senior in high school, age 16 or above, in order to be eligible for dual credit courses. You can print an application online or visit Parkland's admissions office to pick one up.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to see the counselor right now.
Yeah, I don't want to miss out on this opportunity.
Me neither.
One of the issues, you know, with the community colleges over the years has been the fact that people, when you're comparing educational institutions across the country, you know, you got 2-year schools, community colleges, 4-year schools, at the university, private and public level. And so one of the things has been in terms of ways in which we gauge success. One of the big ways in which we gauge success is awarding of certificates and degrees. And then for community colleges in the past, that's certainly been an important factor, but also transfer rates. In other words, at what point we transfer students from community colleges to 4-year institutions. There has been some discussion over the last 4 or 5 years about how that's not an accurate reflection of what really happens at community colleges, because since we're community-based, a lot of times people will come to take classes but not necessarily earn a certificate or a degree, or even transfer without completing a certificate or degree and not necessarily be counted as a successful sort of completer, if you like. So one of the ways in which they have tried to address this has been through the Voluntary Framework for Accountability, which is a way for community colleges to create a set of standards which are an apples-to-apples comparison. Parkland was a pilot member of this group. Can you talk a little bit about how that was established and what work you did to generate that?
The VFA, that's what I'll say in regards to Voluntary Framework of Accountability, but the VFA was originated by the American Association of Community College, AACC, and basically, as Dr. Riley said, it was a way to look at measures of community colleges, a way of gauging success, where success is not always determined by whether or not a person gets a credential or not. To back up a little bit, the federal definition of success in any institution is to receive that credential. So basically they base community college success the same as, like our neighbor, the University of Illinois, where, as you were saying, people come to community colleges for a myriad of reasons. So the AACC had come out with this framework of accountability. Basically it was over nearly 100 different measures looking at success in a different way other than receiving a credential. Basically, there was 40 pilot schools, and Parkland College was actually one of those schools that volunteered to be a part of this. And so basically, we collected data based upon the definitions that they gave us. The parameters of the data that we collected were much different than what we're used to doing. It was a way of thinking out of the box. So, for instance, you might look at developmental education. A measure of that might be completing 15 hours of college credit, including developmental education, within your first 2 years. Or specifically looking at developmental education, how long it took someone to go from their first class to their last class, then transfer into college ready type courses. So basically, we collected the data and we sent it in to the AACC, and then they put all the data together. But basically, they weren't looking at the data so much. They were looking at the overall process. They were getting our feedback of what we thought worked, what didn't, what definitions worked, what didn't. And they were looking at it from all 40 community colleges across the country, because some community colleges have data, other ones don't. For instance, some of the questions they ask are what your students do after they leave Parkland College with a degree. With where are they working, how much do they make, do they live in your district, and all that. Well, Parkland College, in the state of Illinois, none of the community colleges have access to that data. We don't know what they do, other than if they transfer to another university, we will know that. But we don't know where they're working, how much they make, how many hours they work, and all that. In the state of Illinois, we don't have access to that data. Bill, in certain states, I think in Kansas, for instance, they have all of this data. So basically, they know where their students are, how much they're making, all that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of information that we would not have and they would have, and that's the kind of feedback that the Voluntary Framework of Accountability would take into consideration when forming the final product.
So part of the idea is, of course, this notion that students who are at community colleges don't go straight through a 2-year program in 2 years. much like baccalaureate students don't go through a 4-year program in 4 years either.
Right.
But also was a way of understanding a little bit more about, you know, how students were being successful at the community college over 150% time or 200% time.
Right, right. And if what somebody may not realize, what that means, and I even had my first 6 months here, I didn't know what 150%, 200% time means. Basically, that means if you have a 2-year degree, that means a person, if they complete it in 2 years, that means they're completing it at 100% of the time. 3 years would be 150, 4 years would be 200. And in the VFA measures, we went out basically to 6 years. We looked at spring 2004, or fall 2004 through spring of 2010, and we looked at a 6-year time frame of the completion of what all these students did.
Because it's not unusual for a student to take a lot longer because they're working full-time even, and taking classes, trying to work toward a change in careers, which is a lot of the function of the community college as well.
Because on the 6-year completion rates, we had those that completed within the 6-year time frame. We had those that completed with a degree, those that completed without a degree, as in they may have completed their personal goal. We had those who transferred with a degree, those who transferred without. We had those who weren't here after the 6 years. We had those that were still here in good standing. So there, you could see there's just in that 6-year time frame, there's all kinds of ways to measure.
Still adding value, of course. I mean, the community college is still providing an opportunity for them to add value and continue to learn and persist in their educational goals, although they might not be necessarily attainment of a certificate. You mentioned a couple of times the Higher Learning Commission. This is our, we just have gone through the accreditation visit from the North Central Accreditation Body, and you talked about gathering data for that. We do that primarily for the self-study for the college. Talk a little bit about sort of how your office sort of provides support for that data gathering process.
Well, in regards to the self-study, we had the self-study looked at every part of the college in every way, and so in our office we supply data to all ends of the college about all kinds of questions, things that we would never even we normally do. We basically just gave any kind of evidence we could to help support what we wrote in the self-study. Looking at it now, the process has changed with the Higher Learning Commission, so now there's a lot of it still unknown because the whole process is so brand new. It's called the Open Pathways Model. So we don't exactly know what we're going to do in regards to the upcoming upcoming accreditation process. But on an annual basis, we do what they call an annual institutional data update, which basically is a compilation of data, financial and non-financial based, that we do every year. So at this point in time, we don't really know where we're going in regards to the new accreditation process. That is to be determined, which we should know within the next couple months.
Part of the way in which we're beginning to prepare for the kinds of data that we will need to gather is exploring a national benchmarking project as a way to sort of determine some sort of points of data that you know we can use as comparative for comparative analysis purposes. Talk a little bit about that. I know it's very brand new. We're sort of still exploring it, but just give us a brief understanding of what that is.
Sure. Well, it's called the NCCBP, the National Community College Benchmarking Project, out of Johnson County Community College, which is in Kansas, in Johnson County. And basically, it's a national project where I think there was about 400. Don't mark my word on that. I think about 400 community colleges participate this in every year, and basically they give data, and they look at all these different benchmarks or measures or indicators or KPI, key performance, however you want to term it. We look at all these different measures and we turn them in, and then basically they send us back data to where we're able to compare ourselves to all these other community colleges. And the beauty of it is all of the measures, all the institutions base their measures on the same definition. So a lot of times when you're comparing how many students go to your college, you might compare yourself to another institution, and that the definition they use and the definition you use may be totally different. So this gives us the ability to do apples and apples on how we how we compare ourselves on the benchmarks.
So certainly an exciting and interesting
much.
project, a way for us to sort of get a clear indication of how
Yeah.
we're doing.
Well, this is our first year doing it,
Sure.
and it's been around for about 10 years, and like I said, there's a lot of things we don't know. We've already started working on this, and there's 250 measures, and you can imagine it'll take a while. It'll take a while to put all this together, but a lot of these measures are brand new to us, so we have to actually go through and kind of put together the data as much as we can in regards to their definitions. So
You referred earlier to the new realm of accountability. It certainly is something that is as important. You know, a lot of times people produce data in order to get results in terms of like financial support or to justify what it is that we do. But really, it seems to me that the use of data going forward is really going to inform not only the general population about
Sure.
what community colleges do, but also perhaps to inform the decisions that we make at the college. And it's a very exciting and new and
very
important
much.
part of what your office is going to be
very
doing.
much. That's right. Very much. I mean, it's not only in higher education. It's not only at the community college. I mean, where I came from before was the University of Illinois, and every institution has to do this. And I worked in the private sector at a healthcare organization, and we used data to make decisions there. So it's not only in education. I mean, it's beyond the realm of accountability. Even it's just beyond of good management. What you're doing with your money in the private sector, especially in the private sector, they really want to know because they're about the bottom line. So you can see the whole realm of institutional research, for instance, it's across private and public sector, and I mean governments. Everybody has to use it now.
One of the great things about what we do and the use we make of our data is that it helps our students and helps us make better informed decisions so that we can make sure that they're successful.
That's right. Yeah, very much.
Well, thanks very much for being on the
you.
Parkland Report today. I really appreciate it. That's it for this edition of Parkland Report. We'll see you back here next time.
To catch the full episode on the Chanute Aerospace Museum, catch Surrounded by Science at 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, only on PCTV.